Public service announcement. You want to avoid the stress. The city sometimes smells like bread. You cannot buy alcohol. Need to open your eyes. Hi, I'm Danica and welcome to my channel. Today I thought I'd do a little video all about studying at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. But as a quick overview, I graduated in 2020 off the beginning of the pandemic after studying French and Russian studies for 4 years, which is a whole other kettle of fish. But for today I just wanted to focus on the more general experience and what you can expect life to be like as an Edinburgh uni first timer. So the first thing you're going to want to consider when you're thinking about accommodation is whether you want to go for uni accommodation or private accommodation. Now, I will say that 98 to 99% of students will go for uni accommodation. It's just very slick, very easy, you can do it through the uni, whereas private accommodation, it's obviously you, yourself and you. But in saying that, I'm sure a small percentage of students do go for private accommodation, but those options are obviously a lot more common when you go in second year, third year, fourth year. You know, 95 to 96% of students do that, and it is a rat race when you're looking for accommodation, I have to say. But a word of warning, if you are looking to find private accommodation just after you received your results, is that the city is flooded with performers and tourists, etc. in August, because it's the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So if you're thinking of coming and going and doing viewings in August, just be prepared for that. But otherwise, see if you can get it sorted as far in advance as possible, because you want to avoid the stress. Oh, and another thing is that letting agencies don't always have the best reputations when it comes to renting out to students in Edinburgh. South side would be one. Is that bad to say? So that's the private accommodation side of things. But when it comes to uni accommodation, there are so many options around the city, different distances from the campuses and in different areas. And the layout of the different accommodations range from 4 to 6 person flats, the studios, single rooms, shared rooms, I think the single sex places. Yeah, so there's options for everyone. And when it comes to uni accommodation, all of these will generally have cleaning services, Wi-Fi obviously, and a lot of them / all of them will have residential advisors, which are basically older students, you know, from second year, third year, fourth year, who have chosen to stay in the uni halls, and they're there to help you settle in, make sure that you're, you know, doing okay and meeting people and whatever. Coin operated laundry machines, which, you know, you can do your washing, your tumble drying in. But what I will say is get down there before the end of your cycle, unless you're okay with your underwear being pulled out and plopped on the top of a machine, because that happened to me every single time, you know? So the next thing you want to think about is whether you want catered halls or self-catered halls. I personally went for catered. It's very easy breezy, you know, it's all sorted for you, or at least your breakfast and dinner, and on weekends your brunch and dinner will be sorted for you. Don't need to worry. Lovely. And then obviously if you are in catered halls, you can sneak in a little lunchbox. I don't know if it was allowed, but we'd all bring lunch boxes and take extra food that you can just take back to your room. They had these little mini sachets of Nutella always, so I'd get a mini sachet of Nutella and a banana and just snack on that all the time. The thought of it now makes me feel ill because I eat it so much, but yeah, you can definitely stock up on some food when you go to the Pollock Hall's food hall, which is called the JMCC. I must say, the food in Pollock Halls, it was fine-ish, but they definitely blow their whole budget in the first semester, because I remember my final semester having leftover haggis from Burns Night, which I think is in like late January, early Feb, with salad. But the thing is, if you are choosing to go catered, it will affect your accommodation pricing. So obviously self-catered is much cheaper than catered accommodation, but it is much easier to know that you are getting your food dealt with for your first year when you leave home. So it's kind of a nice little stepping stone, I think, to go for catered. But do bear in mind, if you are going for catered accommodation, you still will have a mini kitchen slash pantry where you can do bits of cooking. There'll be a microwave.
Microwave.
You can make your snacks, your lunch, whatever it happens to be, and you have like a little cubby where you can keep your utensils and your foodie bits. So far what we've spoken about is uni accommodation versus private accommodation, catered versus self-catered, and then there's ensuite versus shared bathrooms. So if you go for shared bathrooms, you will have a sink in your room if you're in uni accommodation, which is handy. And to be fair, before I came to uni, I really wanted ensuite accommodation. I ended up getting a shared bathroom and it was absolutely fine. There were never queues to get in or anything like that. So if you're worried about that, don't worry. So the second thing I want to talk about is societies. My main advice here is just join them.
Join them.
My sister said to me on numerous occasions before going to uni, Tanika, join as many societies as you can because you'll never get the opportunity again. And she was so right. And I didn't listen to her. You'll have so much fun, you'll meet amazing people, and you'll have the opportunity to join loads of different societies and clubs and stuff that you wouldn't have the opportunity to do otherwise, at least not so easily. You can join any sports society you can think of, a cappella groups.
It's all from our mouth.
Wine tasting society, whatever it happens to be. And if the university doesn't have it, you can literally just offer to create a society, which would look great on your CV, on your LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a list of all the different societies or which ones there are to join or when to join, you can look on the University of Edinburgh website, I believe. But you'll also have the Freshers' Fair, which happens in the first 2 weeks of your first year, and you can go and get as many different bits of merch as you want and flyers about all these different societies and sign up to them all. Like literally sign up to them all. You don't have to go, but sign up to them all and then maybe you'll go to some and maybe you'll love them. I only joined up to one society. I joined cheerleading society and I did it for a year and a half and it was amazing. I had so much fun and met fab people, and you obviously have initiations and stuff like that. This was my beau. How cute is that? So yeah, just join them. But the only thing to keep in mind if you're joining up to a sports society is that you will have to buy a gym membership. So if you hate the gym, sorry, but it's fine. It's literally £115 for the year and you can use the gym as much as you want. You can go to classes for free, and there's also saunas in the guys and girls locker rooms, which is lovely after a gym session. So the next important aspect of your kind of day-to-day life as a uni student is the campus. There are tons of uni buildings spread throughout the city centre. So firstly, before going to class, you want to check your timetable and figure out where your class is going to be, because I've definitely turned up to the wrong building a couple of times, so just make sure. So the central campus is spread around different squares and streets in Edinburgh's south side and also Old Town, so the buildings are beautiful. But the central campus is mainly for, you know, humanities students, art, social science, law, I think some computing students as well. So the main areas, what I think are the main areas, the main areas in the central campus are George Square, which is where the main library is. You've got your little square in the middle, there's little food stalls, and then that links up to Bristow Square, which is where TV at Bar is. A lot of people go there for nachos during class. I never tried the nachos, but apparently they're delightful. Then there's also McEwen Hall, which is where you graduate, and it looks amazing. Unfortunately, I still haven't graduated, and I'm not settling for a virtual graduation, so fingers crossed. Then there's Potter Row, which is the main student union, and you can eat there, you can study there, and then it also hosts the Big Cheese, which is one of the main nights out on a Saturday. If you enjoy cheesy music and VKs and Barbie Girl coming on at 3 AM, do your thing. I hated it. So aside from the central campus, there's the King's buildings, and this is mainly for science students, engineering students. I have never been there, but I have a couple of friends who did biomed, etc., and they've given me their opinions, so I shall share now. So the main thing I know about King's buildings is that it's out in the sticks. I obviously studied languages, so I was never there. In terms of transport, I think it's a 30-minute walk from the central campus, but you can get a shuttle bus from George Square, which is in the central campus, which a lot of people do, but I'm sure it's easy. I'm sure it's fine. It's not a reason not to study science engineering at Edinburgh, and that is simply because of all the perks I've heard of the King's buildings. So we obviously have the main library in central campus, which is always rammed, especially during exam season. It's hard to get a seat. It's impossible to get a seat actually, whereas the King's buildings have numerous libraries, which apparently are just better in general and easier to get a space in. We have a couple of different cafes around the central campus, which I actually really liked, but again, I've heard the cafes in King's buildings are phenomenal in comparison. So, and then the final perk I heard about the King's buildings is the on-site gym, which is really handy because I can never be bothered to actually go down to Pleasance, which is probably a 10 to 15 minute walk from the main campus, maybe less. I didn't do it very much. But its major downfall is that you're not gonna find the Aussie and New Zealand rugby teams training at the King's Building gym. You will at the Pleasance gym though. Oh, and the other major perk I've heard about the King's buildings is that all of their lectures are recorded no matter what, whereas in the main campus and in George Square, it's very unlikely that your lecture will be recorded. I think I've had maybe one recorded lecture. The sun is blinding me. Blinded by the light. And the last thing to think about before coming to Edinburgh and starting your career as a uni student at the University of Edinburgh is what your day-to-day life is going to be like, what the city is like, what the nightlife is like, blah 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 blah. But there is so much to talk about on this topic obviously, so I won't be able to cover it all. I can obviously talk about it some other time. Edinburgh is phenomenal vibes. It's obviously a beautiful city. There's a gorgeous building around every corner. It's one of the top tourist cities and there's just so much to see and do. Number one, if you're into shopping, Edinburgh has all the high street / luxury stores and department stores that you could ever be looking for, which are mainly based on Princes Street, which is a new town, and then the street behind that, which is George Street and the adjoining streets as well. And then if you're into second-hand stores, there's tons of those around the city as well. I think there's some pretty good ones in Old Town, so that's near the central campus of the uni. And there's also some really good vintage shops. I know there's a chain of a couple called Armstrong's, which I loved. There's one on Grassmarket in particular, which is the biggest one, and it's just so fun to go in there, try on some feather boas, some vintage leather jackets, whatever it happens to be. The next thing is that there's just so much to explore and do in Edinburgh, and the great thing is that there's this duality between you can literally be in the city centre 1 minute and the next you can be, I don't know, out by the beach or climbing up an ancient volcano, aka Arthur's Seat, which I really recommend you do. The fact that you can literally just leave the city and, like I said, be up at Arthur's Seat, the Crags, Calton Hill within minutes and have this amazing panoramic view of the city is incredible. You can go up there for sunset, go up there and see some of the fireworks for Hogmanay, which is the new year in Edinburgh, and it's just great for having a little de-stress or a walk around and a relax. You can literally just get out of the city, whereas that's so hard to do in so many other cities. Okay, so one of the major things I guess for a lot of uni students in terms of the day-to-day life of being a student is the nightlife. So in terms of nightlife, there are tons of options in Edinburgh, tons of different bars, pubs, clubs, uni-owned pubs, clubs, bars. So do not worry, you will not be stuck listening to like techno or cheese or whatever it happens to be if you don't want to be. So during the week there will be various different student nights happening in various different clubs around the city. So I remember during first year I stuck this pretty religiously. So Mondays was Why Not, I think Tuesdays was Bongo, Sneaky Pete's or Milk. Wednesdays was Cream Soda, which I used to love. Thursdays was Rascals, and Friday was a, you know, do what you want day. So if any of those aren't your thing, you can go to other club nights, or if clubbing's not your thing, there's loads of bars and pubs, or if that's not your thing, you know, do you? Couple of notes: don't wear heels out. I mean, you can wear heels out, but the cobbles are deadly. The student nights are much cheaper than non-student nights. Wednesday night is usually the sports society's nights out. There's loads of events and DJs and open air festivals, etc. that come to Edinburgh, so keep an eye out for those if you like that kind of thing. And last thing, public service announcement, is that you cannot buy alcohol in the shops after 10 p.m. So either figure your out and go down earlier, or yeah, you don't have anything, go to a bar. And the final thing I'm going to say this time round, even though there's plenty of other things I could say about living in Edinburgh and plenty of other things that are important to know, is that the city sometimes smells like bread. And I remember in first year never knowing what this smell was. It's like bread, popcorn, not really sure. Later found out it's malted barley and roasted malt from the city's breweries and distilleries. So if you're wondering what the smell is when it wafts in every now and then with the wind, that's what it is. But that is all I'm going to say for today. There's obviously so much to talk about and so much to do in Edinburgh and so much that I didn't cover. But I think they're the general basics of what the day-to-day life as a student in Edinburgh would be. Just throw yourself into everything, have a great time, and yeah. You need to open your eyes up.